We got the Ariens Pro 28 track version snowblower here today. The friction disc has worn out. All the rubber's gone off of it. This is the new one. There's a few videos on about changing this friction disc, but there's nothing on the track model how to do it. They're all wheeled models, so I had to call up Ariens and talk to the technician, and they told me not much information, but the right side track has to come off, which I was wondering. They say not both. On the wheel versions, they pull both of the wheels off. It didn't look too hard on the wheels, so this right track, I believe once I get the track off, which is these two bolts right here, that'll loosen it. I don't know if I have to do anything with this. I can usually move it back and forth. I think it'll loosen with all that attached, so if I can get the track loose, the track off of here, then I think all we gotta do is pop this nut off and this cogwheel will come off of here. I'm not sure if we need to take this triangle piece assembly off, but that will probably be the next part. Over the shaft to safety it in, get it over it and then wiggle it off. There's that. Oh, wow. So now we're going to take this cover off. That's pretty simple. I've had it off before. It's only, I think, 6 bolts. So we'll get that done. Okay, cover's coming off. Set it right here. It's a greasy mess. Probably a lot of chunks of rubber in there too, stuck on that. Getting in. Here's my old friction disc. You see it's shiny and just there is a little bit of rubber on it. But it's kind of metal to metal down here. And it just was slipping all the time. So this big disc turns by the belt coming from the engine, but to flip it around and go 90 degrees and turn these tracks, you have this little disc, and when the clutch engages and it comes down, hits this, it spins this little disc, which turns the tracks. The further it's out here, the faster it goes. Slower, slower, right towards the middle. Right in the middle is slowest. And then you flip it on this side, 2 speeds, and that's reverse. Big 90 degrees. Needle nose pliers. Okay. That will cover the disc here. So I can get the little traction disc off. All right, next step. To get this off, the friction disc, we're going to pull this off, that off, take these little clips off. And that will loosen everything up where I can slide this shaft out that way enough to get this little gear cog off my chain. And then I'm going to slide the shaft back over this way all the way so I can get this disc off the end of the shaft, which will be right about in here somewhere. That's the plan. The first thing is these little clips. And okay, friction disc is off. Here's the shaft. Here's my little sprocket gear, quad gear. Those came off. The bearings, here's the bearing. Let's tell you, this bearing here slipped right off the shaft. This bearing gave me a hard time. I ended up having to get a punch. I'm punching the shaft through this way to get it out of the bearing. I had to move the shaft that way, or I mean this way enough. No, excuse me, that way, so I could get that little clog gear off, or else the chain wouldn't come off. I didn't have enough slack there. So once I did that, I got the gear off the chain, and then everything moved over, and it slid right off for me, off of this assembly, the friction disc, and then it came off the end of the shaft right in here. So I got it all in front of me now. I'm going to clean everything up, and probably look for some good grease here for it. Put some marine grease on this, kind of water type, proof type grease. I'll grease this cog gear up, but I'll probably wait till I get it on so I don't have such a greasy mess. So, yep, my friction disc is on. The old one, they came off pretty easy. So yeah, I'm going to grease this up, get the assembly back in there and ready to put on. Okay, I got the assembly all back together. The bearings all slipped back in, no problem at all. I had to kind of mount where I mounted this bearing first, and it didn't really want to fit. Then I came over this side and just tapped it in. It really slipped in quite easy. Bolted them in, shaft's tight, no problem getting this back in. The pins are in, cog gear is back on, right position, everything re-greased, waterproof grease. I am ready to put my cover back on here, and then we'll tackle getting this track back on. Gonna have to take a little break though, and go walk the dog before it gets dark. Okay, I got both tracks on. Everything's lined up. I tightened both of these up to about where I could just pretty much eyeball, count the threads, and set them up to about the right tension. They feel about right to me. So I didn't get too technical there. Got this sprocket on, The clip didn't want to go on. This inner shaft was in. So I ended up having to take this back off to hold the outer shaft, and then push this in here to get this inner shaft sticking out enough to get the clip on. And that was my only real problem putting it back together. There's no big, except it takes a bit to get these 6 bolts off and pull that plate off. But other than that, we're ready for a test run.